It is Modern Craftsman Monday, and this is episode 100. It's just the three of us reminiscing about what we've talked about over the course of the last 100 episodes.
All 100 we touch on, pretty much.
Yeah, we basically pull plugs out of every single... No. But we talk about... Well, we talk about schedule and what drives schedule. Johnny mentions a project he's working on right now, and then we go into panelization and how I'm wrong about pre-planning all this stuff. But yeah,
credit lines.
We talk about credit lines. We talk a little bit about cost plus. I know you guys probably going to want more information on that. But either way, we're super pumped that this is episode 100. We couldn't have done it without you guys. And real quick before we get into the podcast, this episode is sponsored by Upstate Merch. They have been a tremendous support to the Modern Craftsman as well as our individual businesses. And I know a ton of you guys use him at Upstate Merch on Instagram. Hit him up for all your apparel needs.
Yeah, they have a sale or a special going on for contractors right now too.
100 shirts for $485, right?
Yeah, or 50 for $290, which is an amazing bargain.
You can't beat that. So hit him up. Dylan will help you out with all your needs for branding. And it's IBS week too, so we'll hope to see you guys in Vegas.
Yeah, by the time this comes out, it's going to be Vegas week.
Woo!
See ya.
Ooh, new Pelican case,
Dude,
huh?
everything fits.
It's a beast. It looks small in that
It's
photo.
so fucking light. It's so light.
That's awesome.
And it's
got
there was a
wheels.
sticker. It says 40% lighter. It's probably, with everything in it, it weighs the same as that one that didn't have wheels. So, yeah.
I love it.
We're reading about Joe Rogan shitting his pants because he's on a carnivore diet.
He's shit black.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you listen to his podcast with the girl that, like, I think brought that to his attention, like the carnivore diet?
Probably, yeah.
Michaela, the lion diet, she calls it.
Yeah.
And she was like diagnosed with arthritis when she was 6.
It's gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
He's
shit.
legit about it. He's 10 days in.
Yeah. No, he's more than that now.
Now he is.
His post, and he was like, I thought it was placebo, but I definitely have more energy.
You know, he said that. Yeah, he's straight up. And I know I listened to I listened to all his podcasts. I got to catch up because he blasted out 5 of them, I think, this week after the break. And I'm like, I mean, not gonna lie to you, the fight compilation that they do, where it's like 5 of them, and they're all like fighters and comedians. That's where this came from. Was like, we don't need. It's the most enjoyable. They had a 4.5 hour podcast, and I'm like, when can I get back on my truck?
Dude, our
trying to make excuses to get back into it.
The client in Somerville that we might do a job for, she's full-time podcast. I'm like, oh wow, like how many?
We are not monetizing this.
I was like,
no.
I was like full-time. I'm like, how often do you release? She's like, once every other week. I was like, wait, hold on. And she's like, there's a ton of production, but it's all food science. And I guess they do. It has a lot to do because they film and then they like do all the experience. I don't know,
dude. If you listen to Adam Grant, I love the flow of his podcast. So I think that's the one where
that's work life, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't interview one guy. Mm-hmm. He'll interview like 3 or 4 people and then blend all the same like topics. So it's so good.
Yeah. Have you ever listened to the Freakonomics one?
No, I haven't.
Because I think that's the same. He interviews different people and then he cuts it together and then he also narrates it.
Yeah, exactly. So
which I was like, dude, that's so much work.
But I guess if you're into it for the money, I think we're into it for telling the story.
100 episodes.
Oh yeah, it is a C note. You're right.
I know. That's crazy. I will admit, the last few weeks I kept thinking this is 100. Nope, 97. Nope, 98, 99, and 100.
It's pretty good, and I feel like I went through some stuff this weekend, I think, and I think Spotify, we got a couple of reviews that we can read. I think I did check the standings, and we're in the top 200 again for
on iTunes.
Yeah, for educational. Which
nice.
We dropped out at one point because a million podcasts added to the group.
Yeah.
But now we're back up there. So
well, I think this is a great question for the audience. because you've always asked, should we stay in educational, or should we change categories? So I'm wondering if, like, I'm curious if anyone has any thought on that.
I think we're the only podcast in educational. Like all our, not our competitors, but all our.
We're the only one, but we're in the top 200.
But no, like our brothers and sisters
Yeah.
in our genre
Yeah.
are all in like careers. They're all like, some are in hobbies, some are in some other stuff. I forget
Yeah, I
why
don't think this would be hobby, but career
Yeah.
would be one that I wonder if
correct. Yeah,
would make sense.
I forget why we pick educational because I mean we're up against like Tony Robbins, Gary Vee,
Yeah.
like Dak Shepard, and like,
they're considered
armchair-
educational?
Yeah, they're all educational.
Yeah.
So those are like your top 5. Dak Shepard and armchair expert.
What about the other 195?
Yeah, there's a bunch of Spanish.
Yeah, it's like
it's all
how to learn
languages.
Spanish.
Yeah, those guys kill it, and it's like 15-minute podcasts. But I don't know. I haven't looked in a long time, so I went on. I was like, where do we stand, dude? Lots of feedback about the work life podcast.
Yeah,
That was a good one.
it was. And I was actually surprised. Did you get any feedback on Breck?
A little bit.
Good, bad?
A little bit.
Yeah, same. Breck actually called me.
Did he?
And we were we were just chatting. It's like, and it was. I actually I told him that we have the additional audio, which no one actually reached out about.
No one reached out to that.
I
don't know if they made it through it.
I'm curious. Yeah, well, that could be one, but
Someone said it reminded them of 67. I went back and looked to see what 67 was.
was that the kid that we
The
put on
business
blast?
one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got a few of them.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
People were like, oh, I'm kind of glad that you said something.
That's good. I mean, that's the point, right? Is to shed light on. Well, what I
It's
explained
tough.
to Breck is that we're in a position here, and it's a tough position in the sense that we need to ask the questions that people want to ask. If we, that is the line that we walk, is that we know what the question's going to be, or the comment might be, and if we're not going to ask it, it leaves the listener kind of in the dark.
But the hardest part is that when you ask someone to come on as a guest, there is that mutual respect that you have for each other.
Sure.
So Tyler didn't ask him to come on, so he could kind of dig into it.
If you want to know the truth, the story is everyone, or at least you guys know that my time spent on social media isn't it's not necessarily just building, and I don't know everyone, and I'm not familiar with his page. And it's not because I don't know him. I don't it's just what's on my feed. I enjoy what's on my feed, and it's something that I can relate to. And I obviously there's just not that much to relate to on his page, and that's not me insulting what he's doing or anything else, but I legitimately was completely unfamiliar with his page, did not know it at all. So when we're on the podcast, I'm going through the page and I'm looking at the brief that you guys gave me for him and for his handle. And then I'm listening to his story and I'm like, did I miss something here? And I was looking back at, again, what you texted me, like the background, and then listening to the story, and then I'm live on that handle, and I'm like, did I miss something? Is Hammer another page that this is what he's preaching on? And I went there, I couldn't find that anywhere, and then it just got to the point where I'm I don't know what the heck's going on, and there was just a disparity between those two, and it got to the point where I was clueless, and figured I'd ask.
No, you have to. I mean, that you're not going to be the only one that doesn't know that handle or his story. Correct. And there's people that are going to want to know the answers to those questions. But we're not going to use this episode to recap.
No, not
99
so
or 98 but
any of them.
100.
90s.
99.
Maybe one.
Which one?
No, the number one.
Oh. It's funny, the first one wasn't really the first one.
It wasn't?
The first one was really like a third one in or fourth one in.
What did we use on number one?
I feel like we had recorded a bunch and we didn't like it. Then we wanted to record it and start it with each individual story of each one of us.
Okay.
Then we started doing those, and those didn't go over well between the three of us. and then we didn't want it to be about us. And then we ended up recording, I think our fourth one was a real podcast.
And that's when we were on the Home Depot bucket, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One mic. I think it was Isn't there a song, One Mic, by Nas? It's definitely there. Somebody bring that up.
Puff, dub that in there. Let's buy the rights to that. What do you guys want to talk about? Because I feel like we get a handful of questions that we always dance around.
You know what annoys me?
What?
Is like everybody says, okay, I'm an optimistic guy. Not gonna.
I would say you're slightly realistic.
No, but no. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. But no, I am very optimistic. But like I've been trying to be more real with people. Like we're doing the Ben and Jerry's, and it's a tight time frame. He gave me 2 weeks and then pulled it back to like Wednesday. And he goes, don't worry, if something can't get done, I get it. You know, I don't want to be unrealistic here. We added a bunch of scope of work. And I go, hey, you know, I don't think we're going to get the epoxy. And I said this before we even started, the epoxy done on the back line. And he goes, totally get it. Within 5 minutes of that conversation, he goes, you know what? I know you told me that, but I really want to get the epoxy. I'm like, then why the F did you say, hey, don't be realistic with me? And I look back when that moment happens all the time when someone's like, hey, I wish, you know, you just told me the right dates or what you really thought was going to happen. And whenever I do that, people push back and go, I don't want that. I'm like,
yeah,
well, that is real life.
Right.
I will be super aggressive and try and make the other stuff happen. But every single time I say something that I know is going to happen or whatever, like this would be the right way to go about it. So I don't have to, like today I'm like, John, I think if we have the cleaners in tomorrow afternoon, check the dry set time on the epoxy. They don't open until 6 on Friday. We could probably do it at midnight. Like, I don't want to work at midnight tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But this is where I'm put in a position to make it all happen, even though I tried to say, hey.
So let me ask you a question because, and I've brought this up before. I had a conversation with a client that we were getting near the end, and I reached out and I said, listen, I want to be realistic with you. This is, you know, I know this is the time frame that we're shooting for, but we're not going to make it. And the reply was totally understood, but same thing. But that doesn't work, so we need to figure out how we do make it work.
But yeah.
But I guess, do you think it would have been different if you in the beginning of the job?
I did.
But you accepted the pushback to Wednesday, right?
I accepted exactly. So I accepted that because he's like, I'd love to be open on Friday. I said, understood. I go, it's super aggressive. I go, almost impossible to put the quality that we're going to try and slam into this shop in whatever it is, 14 days. Mm-hmm. And we're doing it, and I am behind. Like, it's funny. I stood in the shop, was it yesterday? Yesterday morning, and I stood there and didn't move. And John's like, what are you doing? I go, this is the point of no return right now. And John and Hunter were like, no, it's definitely like Thursday. I go, no. To tell someone whether we're going to finish on time or we need an extra day, what was that? That was today, Wednesday? Yeah, it was Tuesday morning. And I was like, this is the point of no return. This is when we give everyone the right notice and everyone's comfortable with saying, hey, we're going to open on Saturday. And it was kind of funny to me that no one else is on that same page. You know, there's like that small moment in time where you're like, this is good for everybody if we tell them in time. It's not like, hey, it's too close or it's too far away where you're just guessing.
Right.
That was the moment. And I was like, it's because, like when John said, I don't think it is. I go, the fact that we don't have lighting up and the fact that we don't have stainless steel tops makes me think we need more time. And to that, I need to investigate how much more time on both those items. Everything else, the other 90 items, whatever they are, I'm totally comfortable with. But the fact that like I think you can use whatever softwares or whatever you want to try and engage this. I got to tell you, so much of this is feel. Stand there and going, all right, what magic can you make happen?
Right.
And like how organized, like after the weekend, it was an absolute, like a bomb went off. And I was like, after I cleaned up everything and dusted everything off and organized everything, I was like, where I was end of day Monday is where I wanted to be and where I thought I would be end of day Sunday. So I lost a day. And that's the conversation we had this morning where I was like, hey, personally, I think we've lost a day. We're still going to make it. But what's on the bubble is the epoxy in the back line.
But why Friday? Like why does it have to open Friday?
I mean, that was just the target he gave. He told me 2 weeks in the beginning, and then now he wants to open Friday. Open Friday means I need to be cleaning beforehand, cleaning, and then health department has to walk through. So that pushes me 24 hours ahead.
Right.
So I lose that day, which is critical when you're trying to do this. Like having paint dry in the right, like it's just like being able to see it in the morning when you walk in and go, that's going to need another coat.
Right.
Like that kind of stuff where it's a huge space. The ceilings are 24 feet high, and that's what didn't do us in, but having one lift, we added sound. Sound guys had the lift for a full day. Mm-hmm. So no painters, no electricals got done. I want to have electrical done before the tile floor went in so we wouldn't have the lift on the floor. They're doing electrical now. Finishing off all the lights.
No lifts on the floor?
Yeah, it's on but I have homosote down, half-inch homosote, and then half-inch ply, 5/8.
Yeah.
But it's just moving on. Now I have to have someone there navigating it. I put Hunter on it to be the cop of homosote.
Your son?
No. There's a college kid. His third year with us.
Oh.
He comes back every time for break, and he's been with us for 6 weeks for Christmas break.
Gotcha.
Comes back. He's doing good. I'm putting him more into management stuff, so he's like having to manage guys, not just be a broom.
Nice.
So it's absolutely loves it.
I just it's like why he wants the epoxy done. He wants it open Friday, but it's like, what happens if you open Saturday? What are the repercussions?
There probably isn't any. And like John said the same thing. What's the big deal? And I'm like, I don't know. I said I'd have it. I'll stand by a date. Is it Amber Alert?
Yeah. Jeez.
Springfield. That's the first time I've gotten that.
An Amber Alert?
On my phone, yeah.
It's crazy when you're in a big group of people and everyone's phone goes off.
Yeah. I feel like schedule, I mean, I'm controlling a lot of the pace on my jobs because we handle so much of that, but I oftentimes feel like every job that you set your date for, you finish at the 11th hour of the day that you're supposed to, just because you make it happen. And I think to myself, how many things like every day had to, if it were just like your scheduling and your experience and knowledge, everything would have had to happen every single day and fall into place for you to hit that target, or you just made it happen. And I feel like so many times it's just you make it happen, because you look at any job and it's like, I want to be done by Friday, and you do anything that you have to. And it always still seems like, it's 7:00 on that Friday and you're still wrapping stuff up. And it's like, you wouldn't have had two extra, like you didn't have any spare time. The entire, like you work the entire, it's almost, I would compare it to, this may sound wild, but when you are, you have to go to the bathroom all day. Like you got to take a poop, right?
It's so true.
And you hold it all day.
Yes.
And then you get into your house and you're like, I'm going to crap my pants if I don't get to the bathroom. But you just held it for like 12 hours and it's literally coming out of you before your legs hit the toilet seat. It's like basically the same thing, except for
so glad you used that. So glad.
But it's like, you just make it happen. Like that target date, there could be 5 more things that go wrong and you can't always still make it happen. But if it happens, it's because you made it happen. It's not because everyone else stepped up or, you caught a break in this, or like, it's just, that's what happens.
But I think you also take pride in trying to accomplish that date, meaning, all right, I set out with that. I agreed upon it. And there was points in this project where I was like, beforehand, where I was like, you know what? There's a little bit too much hand-holding going on right now between me and you, the owner. I'm like, I don't need to have 6 meetings before this.
Right.
Like, I didn't budget management time to have that many hand-holding meetings.
Right.
It's just straight up. And I was like, all right, I need to either pull the plug on this or, we need to continue. And I actually had that conversation with them. Like, we need to either stop this, you can find somebody else, or, you need to trust what I'm doing and just go with this.
John, I think it's like one thing I noticed in Tyler, to your point of kind of figuring out you're finishing at the 11th hour, because that's just kind of how it pans out. I think of one of the last jobs we just closed out. It was the same thing. I showed up on site because I knew we were going to be closing that job out, and it's like I come in and it's like, all right, yeah, I'm going to work. Like there's I'm going to clean windows. Like you step in, and it's, I think in a perfect scenario that wouldn't be necessary, because it would have been scheduled or built accordingly. But that's part of that figuring out. It's like maybe not everyone's stepping, or maybe people are stepping up, but it's because, at that point, everyone now sees that the urgency of it.
But it's also, you're seeing stuff that as things take shape and unfold, maybe it wasn't the best guy that came to do shower glass, and he left it a mess.
Right.
You get me? Like there's things that you have to, like, honestly, almost.
Because you're probably cleaning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was just going to say, 70% of the time I walk in and I just grab a broom.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, there's something about walking on stuff that drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was a carpenter, I was always like multiple trash barrels near the table saw, chop saw. Like, I'm not going to start anything new until this is
right.
Because you just can't work in chaos. But the problem is we're dependent on, Tyler, you're dependent on people too, but like we're dependent on everybody else. So if so-and-so just doesn't show up, like, what do I
think that's the hardest thing is to portray. Like you said, John was like, well, what's the big deal if they open on Saturday? And, and that's the same question I have, but to your point, the pride, if you committed to Friday, let's try to make it for Friday, and not on Friday be like, yeah, I mean, I guess we could bust ass, or we could just do it tomorrow.
But then you have no value in your word.
Right. So,
I mean, I know we can push it, and realistically, if it were to tarnish quality or something, because like I turned to John and I'm like, at certain points, like there was, for instance, if you go to the Natick store and you look at the subway tile, it starts with a full tile on the back wall and it ends with a full tile. The crown, I didn't install the crown. So when I got there, they were putting in like this 1.5-inch piece of 16-inch subway, okay, ripping it down, and by the time it got like a third of the way across, it's down to 3/4, and I was like, just take it off and paint it the same color as the crown. Like, I don't even want any tile there. Like, it was actually highlighting the fact that the crown was off.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's something about, I guess my point of it is like being able to look at what's happening and understanding, hey, I'm not just saying just slap it up like Tyler always says. What goes through me is, imagine working for somebody that said, just get it done. Like, I don't want to walk in and say that. I want to walk in and go, I turn to John and go, not only are people going to come here and get ice cream, people are going to come here and look at what we can create. Like, that is the biggest driving point, that if Nick, Jesus, if Tyler walks in, like, imagine if Tyler, yeah, I'm over at Ben & Jerry's in Natick. I'm like, oh, do not look to your right when you walk in. Like, don't look straight. You know what I'm saying? But like, I want to be able to not feel insecure about anyone walking in that's a craftsman, to go, all right, what did they do here? Like you and I would at a spec house or anything.
Right.
Like, everyone uses the example as a hotel.
Yeah.
Like, you walk in, you're like, the grout lines are like, I want to make sure that it's on point. I know it's a commercial space, but it's like, it's going to have the characteristics of one of our houses. So that's, I don't know.
Did we already, you brought up hotel. Did we already talk about Encore Boston on this podcast?
I haven't.
So Meg and I went for her birthday.
Yeah.
And you bring the point out, you walk into a hotel and it's like you're looking at everything, the grout. Right. I shit you not, this place was perfect.
Really?
Like, I was so, Meg was getting so annoyed with me because I'm walking, like, the lobby, first off, the lobby has 2 escalators that are curved, which I could not figure out how that thing flipped back underneath the floor. I'm like, I'm looking at, like, the landing pad is like 4 times as long. I'm like, they must rotate and then come back down. And she's like, it's not that complicated. I'm like, no, it's like, actually very
keep walking.
But everything, like, I'm in the room. It's like you look at the casing around the doors, the finish on the finish, the paint, and I mean, everything was just on point.
Really?
And it was so weird to me. But I started, of course, I'm like really trying to understand. All right, how did they achieve this? And because they built that building so fast,
really quick.
It was round the clock. But I looked at, for instance, just the interior doors. I'm like, these weren't painted here. These were built, prefabricated, pre-finished,
yep.
Showed up, and they were guaranteed to fit because someone did the preparation and the planning and everything. And I'm looking at like the panel details in the lobby. I'm like, this stuff wasn't assembled here. They built this building so quick because they used the whole entire country to make all these little pieces that everything just arrived and got assembled. And that's kind of what's been driving this whole like efficiency conversation.
That becomes accuracy. If that place isn't accurate size wise.
But I keep having this conversation about efficiency and how do we improve. Earlier you and I were talking about numbers, like how much stuff costs and like what we charge, and I think all the time, I'm like, if we were just more efficient, and I truly believe the way we become more efficient is spending more time on planning and pre-construction and figuring out like, do we have to build this on site? Can we prefabricate it? Can we panelize the house? Like all of these, like looking at every single thing as an individual product and figuring out how to make that particular task or that particular product faster.
But explain to me how you do that and run projects. Like if you had a pre-construction guy, yes, I'm with you. That's their focus is efficiency in pre-con to be able to think out the project.
I don't think it's going to
turn the package over.
Yeah, I don't think it's a switch to it.
I'm saying I agree with you. It's just like how do you do that while balancing the rest of your workload?
I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's very much like the fact and at the end of the day, Meg was overly impressed with the place. For very similar reasons, but we went in there expecting something just not great.
Always.
And it was just everything we looked at, like that's on point. Like just every single thing. And it was when you think about it, again, I'm repeating myself, but it's just all of the planning and all of the thought that went into this and the utilization of like the entire country. I'm saying
and beyond.
Yeah, and beyond to put pieces together because this was so well designed and well thought out,
orchestrated,
right? That it was just, hey, this is what's going to show up, and this is how it goes together. I had, it's like when we were doing high rise. It's a 30-story building. Thousands of pieces of steel showed up on trucks, and I mean, if the ironworkers pulled out the torch because of an issue, it was less than 5 times. The rest of that building went up. Bolted together 100%.
Yeah.
They prefabricated every plumbing stack, so when it showed up, they just stacked it on the next one and went to the next floor because everything was coordinated.
But at the same token, I love the part of being creative with what we have on site.
Agreed, but
I think efficiencies. I don't know if it all has to be. I guess. Like
I'm not saying get rid of the creative side.
I get aggravated the other day when I walked into a house. I didn't bring my notebook or a check for somebody. And I walked in because I saw Fred King, my site guy, walked in to talk about sewer and water. And then I could have carried on my next conversation with somebody else and give them a check and do. And I was like, I forgot it in the truck. Just me walking out to my truck, I was so aggravated myself that I hadn't been like, all right, you had to grab 2 things, John. This is me walking back in by myself. You had 2 things to grab, okay? You couldn't grab a notebook and a check, and now you have to go back outside. You lost 11 minutes. Like, that's 11 minutes that could have been somewhere else. Like, I don't know. I'm with you. I just think it's getting into a rhythm. And
so I went to Mike Riley's shop, Cape Cod Panel. I was there last week.
Little field trip?
I was, yeah. Well, I went to see Hucker.
Yeah.
And I thought he was closer. I was very wrong. He was another 45 minutes into the Cape, which was fine.
Which is like going into a black hole.
Right. And it was rush hour.
Like, why am I going deeper?
But I got to see one of his jobs, but then we went to his shop. First off, if you ever go there, his shop is in like the most weird location. It was like a one-way road for like 12 miles.
Who is this?
Mike ML Riley Construction, I believe, on Instagram, but he's partners with Cape Cod Panel, so they panelize homes. They prefab them, and I was, I'm genuinely interested in that because you're taking the process and streamlining it, and they're showing up and they're standing a house up in a day or 2 days.
Yeah.
Were the numbers what we thought they were?
Price wise?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it was like that $5,000 number.
Oh, that particular.
Yeah. He told me a number the other day. He's like, "Hey, this house," and it was like $5,500. I'm like,
but it was so
stumped. I was straight up stumped.
Same here. What it
it's just,
that particular.
It's just the nails.
That was actually for all the walls. No roof and no floor system, but all the walls. So we started digging into it. I'm like, well, if this was a new house, because this is an addition, could we do the whole? Could you pre-cut the whole entire house? Rafters, roof system, floors, everything. And the conversation was yes. And Jen, who runs the computer? John or Dan, I forget. I'm sorry. One guy runs the computer, and I was like, walk me through why this is better. If say cost is out of the equation, and he said every set of drawings I get, I find all the mistakes that the architect makes. The layovers for valleys don't line up, or all of that stuff. So I'm redrawing the house 3-dimensionally with all the members, all the studs and everything. So my question, all right, how long does that take? And it was a pretty big house, probably 3,500 square feet, 4,000 square feet maybe. And it took him about 6 to 8 hours to draw that house. And from there, it spits out a cut list. And every stud gets cut, and they maximize the cut. So they only have a half-inch piece of scrap. It's one trash barrel for all the studs on the job, because the computer says what to cut out of the 16-footers to maximize material. So waste, obviously, the less waste, less disposal cost. But one of the questions I had is, well, could I take, if this was my house, you drew this, it's spitting out, you're prefabricating, you're pre-cutting rafters. Could you give me that model so I could then coordinate my ductwork?
Yeah, and venting
and all that. And he said that's what we're trying to do. That is the goal here, is that we're building a model and then coordinating, because that's going back to the high rise. You start with a steel guy, and you take those steel drawings, you send it to the precast guy and the mechanicals, and then the precast takes the BIM.
But I'm with you on that. But I think there's something to be said about. There's always something to be changed. So
because
right now we're sending our stuff to Structural Wood Systems.
Yeah,
they're doing the same thing, move an I-joist over a bay for a toilet, whatever else, and we still move stuff around where we still hit, or we put a tub instead of a shower, or vice versa.
Yeah,
and all that's getting done. So they're all pre-cut, they're all labeled, and they're just not prefabricated. Mm-hmm. And so stud walls, honestly, they go up pretty fast.
Sure.
I mean, we can stand walls in no time. It's the floor systems that really, if you can have them pre-cut in a way where you're just minimizing your cutoffs, but all the beams are labeled, so they're not, you're not having someone cut a 32-foot beam for 2/16 or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. They're actually using what's there. That seems fairly. I mean, that's how we became efficient, but it still gives that's efficiency without losing creativity. That's my only. But I
don't think you lose the creativity. I mean, if stuff changes, it changes. You can still make,
But that wall is now engineered by them, for them. So guys on site are really. This is my worry about panelized systems. Is that, let's say a Toll Brothers or a Pulte, there's only one person that's probably in a truck that actually knows the engineering of these walls. Everything else is just labor, because no one actually has to do anything. Mm-hmm. It's swinging a hammer is labor. Mm-hmm. They're not knowing how to cut anything. They're not. So is that a detriment to the growth and longevity of craftsmanship?
Well, it goes to the Bensonwood references, though, that are you getting rid of the craftsmanship of timber framing? And
I think what we're saying is, actually, what I'm saying to you is that I think that there's a place for all this, mm-hmm. but not with the group that we're with. You have amassed a great group of craftsmen that can handle this. It's just how do you strategically place everyone where they need to be, mm-hmm. not have to solve for stud walls. There's so many bigger issues that have to happen in a project.
Yeah.
Just overhang details. There's something said about seeing the roof go up and go, hey, I want a 12-inch overhang on that. Mm-hmm. Not the 8.5 that's on the prints that I didn't really dig into that much. Uh-huh. And now you're stuck with it. I just feel like there's more of you're stuck with it than let me see that go up before the whole roof's up.
I guess the creativity shifts from the guy that's putting the rafter on the house to the guy that's drawing the rafter.
I know, but man, look at cars, bro. Cars, how many craftsmen were involved to build a car back in the day? Yeah. Every person in the assembly line.
Yeah.
How many people now are needed to be? There's one guy with an iPad that's a craftsman. Mm-hmm. That killed the entire industry. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
Shake it all out and rock it. I'm probably going to put up more of a fight.
No, that's fine. I mean.
Tyler, would you do an addition and go, I'm going to panelize my walls? He's going to say yes.
No,
So if it saved you $2,000?
Probably not. I feel like it's a lot of its scale. Like, how much effort would you have to put into developing those systems? And for the amount of work that I do or could do, it doesn't make that much sense.
What if someone wanted you to build a house? And there's a company that could panelize that whole house. You work with them on the design, make sure everything is going to hit, and they prefabricate that house and they stand it up, and you have a roughed in, dry, ready for MEPs in a week.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound nice. I think that the only issue moving towards that, like John was saying, is say those guys are on site and in the middle of it, the customer's like, hey, I hate the way that looks. And now you got to make a change on the fly. And if you don't have carpenters on staff who know what they're doing, then there's almost an inability to continue with that. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of stuck with it. So I think if you had customers and a team that was capable enough of seeing what that final product looked like with the plans, or they could create models that would represent and be able to kind of facilitate and communicate that to the customers, I think that it's a viable and a decent option. I think that sometimes on paper and even in models, what appears to be right isn't always. And when you see it in person, sometimes it's different. And I think that if you have somebody on board who's just putting that together, they may not know how to make a correction or change something. The one problem is that it takes the thinking out of it. So people stop questioning what they're doing. At that point, you're just assembling stuff. And I think on some homes, that may be an issue.
But imagine if Nick's saying a house in a week. That means your windows have to be pre-ordered 2 weeks before the framing even gets there. Same with the roofing. So in reality, I get that you've done all this pre-planning, but if you make a change, it's already all bought. Mm-hmm. You're gone. You're never making. I guess you're so far beyond. And
what?
The last part of this is maybe I fucking enjoy that whole part. Okay, maybe I like standing on that first floor deck going, I just conquered a land that never existed. Okay, this didn't exist an hour ago, and then, I mean, honestly, we're framing 6,000 square foot houses in 10 days. So if I gain 4 days and give up creativity, mm-hmm. I don't see it. I just don't.
I mean, I actually don't disagree with you. I guess my only argument to that is why can't we work towards eliminating the changes, the in the middle changes?
But you're saying that as if you were building, like, you don't like your house now, right?
Okay, yeah.
So now you're going to go with somebody who's never built a home before, your client.
Who?
Your client that you're building a house for.
Okay.
You're gonna assume that they've listened to everything, they've absorbed everything, and that they're gonna sign. Okay, there will be certain clients that will sign off on this thing mm-hmm. and go, yes, 100%. Then there's other clients that will go, like, all the stuff that you want to build mm-hmm. in Australia. Mm-hmm. You're comfortable just hitting play and letting that thing 3D print out and not want to make any changes? Not want to be in that space and feel it and maybe change a window or how that staircase flows? How the light splashes down off that foyer and hits the living room floor? Or could it
I can
be
answer this both ways. I feel like if I...
What's your heart say as a craftsman?
Man, you're...
Sorry.
No, you're right. I mean, you're right. Like, I love being in the space and making changes in the midst of things. I guess what my point with all this is that I just don't think we spend enough time planning for this stuff and putting enough effort into the actual design and the consideration for the details and really thinking about each one of those details before we start building. That doesn't mean that we can't change them. I just think that we could eliminate a lot of those changes or those figuring it out in the field if we were to spend more time on the design.
But
that doesn't
I'm
mean.
with you. I just feel like those little improvements.
But I don't think I would.
So worth it.
To answer your question, no, I wouldn't want to prefabricate that whole house. But I think there's a lot of things in the process that I would absolutely outsource or prefabricate or pre-build prior to the house even existing.
Like, structural stuff and all
right.
that. And I also think that this conversation, and not to be arrogant, but I also think that there's a whole nother niche that by all means this would absolutely help improve their product.
The middle.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everyone has their qualities.
Yeah.
Meaning that they're really good at planning or they're not good at execution or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Maybe somebody's really book smart, can look at all that stuff and then hit play, and it helps them because they don't have they get in arguments with framers because they want it one way and the framers know what they're doing. You know, you guys know who I'm talking about. It's like there's improvement. I think that there's a lot of things, but I just really love that part of the project where, you know, floor by floor, you're walking through with people, and we make changes on every single floor. When you walk through with a client, they just digest the space, and then you walk through with the client and designer and the kids, and you're trying to figure out how things flow. We're going to come down the stairs and just hit that newel post and roll. Do you want a little wing wall there? Do you want to open it up to the dining room?
But I don't think. I think in my head, that would still exist. It wouldn't be so like I'm not I really value what the Encore did, or I'm assuming did. Mm-hmm. But that's not.
But let's just put that in clarification. How many years of pre-con do you think went into that Encore building?
15, 20, 25. I don't know.
But it's months or even years.
Millions and millions of dollars.
I also think that in this industry, if you give us a year of pre-con, we will not use most of it and just focus on something else. That's actual priority.
Yeah.
There's just something about that.
Yeah, I don't think. I think I just want I just genuinely like more detail in design. So
But you got to slow down. I mean, that's the biggest thing is slowing down.
I think so much of it, and I think it probably the better manager you are, you'd be able to keep ahead of this, but so much of being a good manager is building that job out in your head before anyone's doing it and still 100%. Going through that. And I think the more that you take away from somebody's role or responsibility in that and put it towards pre-construction, it almost, you let your guard down a little bit. And it's like, well, they got this covered. And, you know, it could be small details. It could be like, yeah, this, you know, this casing's going to interfere with this, or, you know, where the vanity's built out, it's too close and you're not going to have little things like that. But it also could be bigger things. And I think that the more involved that we are up front, hands-on, and kind of combing through plans and walking through them and actually building them, that you do come up with a better finished product. And I think that the details are nice, but a lot of times those details aren't figured out until you're in the field. You know, you're looking through them when you're pricing it, trying to sort it out to put a labor rate to it. But unless somebody's going through like John Marley and mentally building that job before ever actually picking up a tool, it's going to be tough to sort out those details on pre-construction.
Well, I think about your cornice detail in the bathroom that you did.
Yeah.
With the Kuchen molding. That was, I mean, would you have, there was no designer, right? Like no one drew that bathroom, but would you, like, what, would it have been more beneficial to you if someone had drawn that?
I think to a certain degree, yeah. Like conceptually, I believe yes, but I do feel like once you get into that, there's so many things that change from what's on paper to what you're actually doing. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of times those subtle changes that you make can actually make or break a job. And if you're not involved in that, all that, like, say it could go flawlessly and it could look perfect. But if you do have that hands-on approach where you're sitting there and you're like, well, the scale of this just doesn't work right, or thinking, hey, how's the painter going to finish this? Mm-hmm. You know, where it's just on paper. The luxury that I have is that I'm the painter. So like I'm thinking about every trade. But when you're kind of pre-designing that, and when it's handed off to somebody else. There has to be somebody in charge seeing that entire process through from start to finish. And I think that sometimes having less details, you start to question those things. And you're like, well, what are we going to do here? And then you start thinking of the options and how you're going to build it, rather than just like, hey, this is the way it's going together, and I know it, and I can kind of walk away from this. And I think that there's a huge market for stuff like that, where, and I don't think it's either one of your markets. I think that maybe to get you a shell up, sure, but I think your customers and your customer base, they want to have a hand in that. And I think most people can't grasp that at pre-construction.
And I want them to have a hand in it.
You what?
I want them to have a hand in that.
Right.
I don't want to be like, hey, we got this. See you at the roof stage.
But at the same, like in drawing that cornice detail, I'm not looking at from the sense of, all right, well, this is how they drew it. This is the way it's going to be. Like, there should still be that creative thought and layout on site, and make sure like it works with scale. And
yeah, but that's you. What about your guys? What about not your guys, but like the people below you? That's the whole point. Is that I feel like if you do this system,
yeah,
not this one.
I understand what you're saying. Like,
but I think it gets to the point where it's like, it's not on me. It's how it came.
Right. This is how it was designed.
Yeah. And
yeah. I mean, we're going through it now in that one of the master suite project we're working on, and
the is in quotes, the master suite.
Yeah. They
it's no joke.
The detail, like, there's tremendous amount of detail in it, but we were sitting the other day that there's this kind of wood screen detail that goes in front of a piece of glass near the shower, and it's drawn. It tells you how to attach the steel to the floor and the ceiling, and how it's buried and plastered around, and blah blah blah. But in the meeting, it's, you know, I'm looking at it like, you're not going to be able to clean that glass, and she was very specific about how, like, the client was very specific about being able to clean it, and there was no consideration on how you would fit. Like, there's like 3/4 inch gaps.
Yeah.
So it's all of this stuff is detailed out, and we're sitting around the table talking about it. I'm like, we need to change the way it's detailed, and we need to hinge that so it can swing out of the way and you can clean the glass and swing it back. But John, you're right. It's, you know, whether, like, this is Mike's job. I don't know if Mike, you know, he may have come up with it, but he may have not, and just built it the way it was drawn, because there was all that.
He assumed.
Well, he didn't even assume. He followed what was drawn, what they spent months designing, what you know, a incredibly detailed drawing pans out, because that's, I'm actually agreeing with you here. Is like, I wasn't considering that.
Does not have to be hurtful. It can feel good to agree with me.
good to know.
I definitely think there's a market for something like that. I think with the level of detail and the customization that you guys are going for, it may create more work than it's actually worth in the long run. Like, the time that you save may be doubled on changes down the road. And
I also think.
So how do we avoid?
It doesn't. I feel like it doesn't matter how good of a designer you are. Everyone makes mistakes, and like, you miss things. Yeah, and it's if you have somebody who's used to seeing that process evolve at a normal rate and foreseeing the issues as they kind of come, I think that it's easier to nip them in the butt, and that it's not as large of a burden. If you're taking all of that out of it and it's just going up, it's almost moving too quickly for you to adapt and make those changes as well.
Plus, you may have done this to ease the budget, and then you've plugged all those numbers into the spreadsheet, and then when you want to make changes like vault the ceiling or whatever else, at the time you realize it, those are all change orders.
I think it's, you know, I'm going to have a very simple example. The water supply for toilets coming out of the wall.
You like wall or floor?
Wall for cleaning.
You know what you could do? You could put it in the wall, and then you can cut your baseboard around it.
This is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It's like, why?
Want to shoot myself every time I see that detail on social media.
People love it.
Why? Why would you draw attention to that?
I know.
Explain it to me. Last place I want to look.
God. Agreed.
You found a trigger.
I know. I knew I was going to trigger you. But it's like simple things like that. You know, it's like, why can't we avoid that? You know, and And I think those are the things
Get a
that...
better plumber.
Is it the plumber?
Like,
Does he know that it's a 6-inch baseboard, not a 4-inch? Or maybe he's assuming it's 4-inch.
No, you have to tell him.
Right. And
it's the same as your electrician with his plugs. Are they too close to the casing? Did you let him know?
My whole house.
I'm just saying, like, these are all things
You
that...
know how many light switch plates I had to cut?
Oh, God, don't admit that.
God,
you do it with a razor blade?
Uh...
You turn your blade backwards and cut it.
What? That's how? I broke so many of them.
You could
My
turn your
daughter's
blade
is like
backwards
chipped
on
on
a
the edge.
table saw.
I tried that. That thing shattered.
I wish that was on a YouTube clip.
I was cutting. They said non-breakable.
Yeah, that's not for a table
all right,
saw.
Let's try that one.
That's for the guy who sets the screws too tight. No,
Yeah.
I think...
We can pull the switch over to catch the screw, and like the plate's holding the switch in the spot.
Yeah. But I also think that, Nick, what you're... I don't know, I'm going to read into it a little bit. I think there's very little architects that I would trust to take it to that level. I think a Patrick Ahern and those, there's like a certain Meyer and Meyer. There's a certain caliber of architects that will... Okay, I shouldn't say that because I feel like everyone I didn't mention will get upset. Two things. The most budgets for pre-con for architects isn't what it needs to be.
Yeah.
So that way, not as much time is getting put into it, so you have to put some time into the field. And then B, I also think that instead of talking for myself, people have asked me, hey, if I want to get into remodeling or construction, what do I do if I don't have all, the knowledge and all that stuff? I always turn to them and say, hey, hire a very good architect, because that's like hiring a very good lawyer. They will put all the details into the drawings that you can then use for basically, instead of saying, hey, I want it this way, and someone gives you kickback and you can't, rebound off that discussion, you can turn to the prints and go, well, the prints say this. Mm-hmm. And you can clarify that. But for let's say it's someone that's not as seasoned as you that's going to be running a project, you would love to be able to rely more on the details on paper than having to have you stop by a job site.
I guess that's, Yeah. I think that's what I'm getting at. It's, working with someone that can... naturally over time, like you're going to realize that you have to tell the plumber where to put the water feed for the toilet. Like if you keep doing that and you keep calling attention to it, like
I just don't get how it's always so high. Like to just put it 2 inches off the floor, you'll never miss, and it's better than what you're doing before. Like I think you could center it. It's not that hard, but like air on the lower side, if anything. Like, how is it always right at the base cap height? That's not close to anything. The only thing it's fitting under is like colonial base. But
during the rough stage, like I walk around and I map out centers of toilets. I map out vanities and centers of vanities. If I want it, I rough in most of our powder rooms as pedestals just in case, because I don't know and I want the options. How hard would it be if it came to a cabinet, all the details you write in your dry eraser board as your PM, how hard it would be for you to write down, I want my supply here.
It's not.
I do it with all my valves. I want my head at 88 inches. I want the nipple for the handheld. I want it over here at 33 inches off the ground.
Yeah.
I do it for all that because I know, like Tyler said earlier, I've already built it 3 or 4 times.
Sure.
I want this look for this shower. I want this look for this bathroom, and I don't want to deal with that. And they did just come out with a different type of toilet right now. I think Kohler did or whoever did, where it's not the normal rough-in spot. So even though we've been doing them on the floor and been safe, they now have like an apron around them with it's different. Skirt. And now it's all, instead of being 6 inches off center, they're 9.
Did you say this is for the toilet?
Yeah. So
I ran into that on a job. We tried to switch from like one to the newer.
Yep.
And it's too close. I only found one toilet because like we switched toilets mid-job and everything was roughed in, and we went to go put their new toilet selection, and I was like, this doesn't work. I found one toilet that would work where it was.
We had to change at Ivy. We had to change all of them.
Yeah.
We changed all of them, and it's the same as
so your floor, not wall?
I forget. I think it was a combination of both.
No, what do you prefer?
I mean, honestly, here's the thing: is
outside wall.
I really don't care. To be honest with you, as long as it's clean.
Right.
That's so there's a little bit of this.
I did my whole house floor because I like the look, and then someone was like, "It sucks to clean around." I'm like, "That wall it is."
Honestly, it sucks to clean around the toilet in general.
Right.
Yeah.
So are we serious?
I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
I think there's,
but it's the same as like your Sub-Zero supplies as well. We used to go back and forth with the plumber and go, "Hey, One plumber really loved to put them in the floor. He liked to put the box for the water line in the floor. And then we found that we'd have to roll the back right roller would have to be like tilted back
up and over the box.
Yeah, because he put it like. So we were like, you know what? We should. We did like 3 houses in a row like that, and we're like, you know what? Let's go back to the wall. Because the goal for that was that you'd still be able to not have to move the fridge and be able to still hand get to it. I understood why the purpose was there, meaning you would have to pull it out every time, bring Mason over.
All right, so why not? So for me, like I like to put the shut off for the sink for the fridge underneath the sink, and then run a dedicated feed over to it so you can access it like anytime you need. You don't have to pull the fridge out.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of this business. Right. Everyone has a different way.
Yeah,
I mean it's half dozen one the other. I mean there's guys that like to put the feed downstairs, the shut off downstairs.
Yeah,
I want that line to be. I feel like I've been told over the years that threaded lines and that stuff won't last as long as what you have in the walls for PEX and that stuff. The threaded lines that are so if you're gonna have a shorter extension,
the braided, you mean?
Yeah,
braided.
Threaded braid. Yeah. So you want to keep those as short as possible,
right?
Every time. So whether it's a washer and dryer or that. So instead of having that feed come from the sink all the way around.
No. So what we do is we come into the cabinet
quarter-inch copper.
No, or if it's we could do 1/4-inch copper, or we'll just go back out with 1/2-inch copper, come around, and then go to a threaded nipple, and then connect the threaded line to that. So there's still a connection at the wall, but your actual shut off is just it's more pipe. Isn't
it another joint too?
What do you mean? It's a joint. It basically behind the refrigerator is the copper water line with a threaded end, and then you would thread the braided stainless line to it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is everyone has their own thing.
Right.
This is what we've gone with over the years. Now we're back to the wall. So you have to slide it out because it's the shortest run. I
just always fear that what happens if something blows or pops, like.
Yeah, but that's the same thing as the conversation we had with Steve Bazek and like our holiday policy and days off.
Yeah,
we don't think about the option of it failing. Is if I did everything for it to fail,
right,
we would overkill everything.
Yeah.
Guarantee none of your homeowners know where the shut off for the fridge is, even when you tell them that it's under the sink.
I've had clients tell me that they don't know where the breaker is, and we have a panel in the laundry room, a dedicated panel upstairs. You tell them, they forget. So like putting all these binders and books together, the reality of it is they're going to call you regardless. So I'm better off preparing for the phone call than I am to do all that lead up. So it's the same as, this is how I feel, to be honest with you. I do a lot of pre-con, going through the drawings and trying to dial them with Matt and having 2 wise men look at it. And then I'm good there.
You're one of the 2 wise men?
I'm trying. Like, I'm a 0.5. There's a third. No, but I think that I'd rather put the rest of the focus on when I'm building instead of in the pre-con.
Yeah.
And until I see it has to change. But, I mean, we still do a ton. Like our Carlisle build, we're probably a month into drawings, and we review them every couple of days. And we have another review on site tomorrow morning on how the light's going to hit the house. We are trying to get much deeper.
Yeah.
And, like, it's already been to my structural guy, so I was on the phone with him on the way here. What areas get involved in? All those shop drawings for all the trusses will be in, all floor joists, everything like that, just so I can understand what needs to get doubled up for islands, because it's going to be like a 14-foot island. So it's like, how are you going to... So we are at that. I'm not trying to say you don't need to do any pre-con.
No, I know. It just...
Not for you. I'm just saying.
It interests me in general, and I think, I think I'm talking about it in a very extreme manner, is that you could essentially pre-build this entire thing in space and then have it go together like an erector set, like, a high-rise.
You're just talking to the wrong guy.
No, but at the same time, but I also, you asked me the question about like the style of homes that we want to build. Yeah. There's no way I'd spend a year designing it and then never walk the site and not make a change. I'd walk that site every day and make changes.
I know, but at that point, okay, if you were to print it, I keep saying print it, but if you were to have it done off site, is it really your vision at that point?
Yeah, well, I think so. If I'm
is it
hand in hand,
is it the architect's or is it yours?
Well, anyone that is going to build these homes from an architect,
so then what?
I'm working with them.
But are you necessary? If this can be drawn, and then sorry, I know you're smirking, and it can be prefabricated in a
necessary.
building.
I want to be involved in that design process and what it looks like in design. And yes.
He got really defensive.
No, I'm not being defensive. The whole
N
point.
in NS Builder stands for necessary.
No, this is how I feel. Is that at some
That's
point?
fair. That's a fair question. But my involvement would be heavily on design. Like it's not. This is
if a client comes to you and you have a high-end architect, they're going to say, "Why are you necessary?"
Oh, God damn.
No,
I understand.
I'm running it down the flagpole or up the flagpole, whatever you call it.
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. I guess. I mean,
that's where it's getting to. That if this becomes more mass produced, it's architect to prefabrication guys to laborers, and you've basically eliminated craftsmen to more of the interiors, I hope, of the project, where it becomes tile and aesthetics, not the structural and not the overall look and ambience of the outside. That I think getting it right on paper is, I feel like it's a 50-50
I think
shot.
we just need to be better about planning and design, but to your point, still having that creative approach and being able to see the space develop in real life and adapt accordingly.
But
I think also having whoever's building it involved with design, like with the way that you guys approach projects, so oftentimes you're kind of designing and building at the same time. I've taken that approach on a much smaller scale, which isn't typical because most people want these smaller projects just built for a price. There's no design in place. They're just kind of winging it. But I think that like having whoever's going to be building that or whatever project manager is going to be running that or super on the job have their hand in like while those design meetings are going down. Like I don't think that you need that many cooks in the kitchen, but having somebody who's going to be a part of that along for the ride, I think helps so much as well, because then it's not, you're seeing those and developing those details with a different set of eyes and somebody who is taking part in the execution of the work. And I think that when the work actually takes place, now it's your second, third, fourth time seeing it, not just like, hey, I'm opening up a set of plans, let's build this now.
Agreed. I think the other part of it, Nick, is what happens if a client comes to you and goes, hey, I have this architect, I have it already past the point of prefabrication. Do you want that project?
Yes.
Like he knew I was going to say that. You read my mind?
Yes. You shouldn't be thinking about that right now. No, I don't know. It's very interesting.
It's a great topic.
It is. And I just like preparing and planning and thinking through design. I use the word intentional all the time. And when I'm on site, it's when something doesn't look right, it's because it doesn't look like it was intentionally done. You know, and they're such micro details, but everything we do, you know, there has to be thought. Like where a register lands for HVAC, was it thought? Like, was it thought out? The outlets on the wall, are they centered under windows, or are you just whacking it to the side of the stud that's every 6 feet, 12 feet, whatever?
I'm with you.
You know, and those are the things that one of the things that Mike, when we talked about our Newton job that we wrapped up, I asked him, what do you think you would do differently next time? He said, the first thing he said is,
everything.
I would center the plugs under the windows.
Damn right.
And it wasn't something that was this like total miss or that looked terrible. It was just when everything came together, it was like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I have done that?
Yeah, but
and it's
in the time, there was so many other fires to put out that was kind of the less of all evils.
Right, and what I'm trying to do is kind of capture what Mike learned, and then have that be what everyone learns.
But it's also the fact that it's not just him. It's like a lot of the trades that we've had are guys we've had forever.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to, every product isn't a learning curve. I'm now looking for the one or two things that are off, meaning, hey, that central vac shouldn't go there because I'm probably going to put shiplap on that wall, and I don't want to have my guy cut around it.
Right.
You get me? It's really that communication of how it's going to go, but they already know a lot of the time. Like, but there's still corrections like the drawings have. We did it at Cliff Road. You walk in the drawings, I missed it, that there were 2 recesses in the foyer. I'm like, that should be a kick-ass decorative fixture. So lose the 2 recess. So this, I mean, it's all going to happen in time. Like we do all our plugs that way because when people complain and go, hey, I don't have that, I think there's always going to be the improvement.
Of course. And I guess I'm just trying to capture each of those learning experiences or improvements and have it so it's not just one person.
But is it immediate? You think it's going to immediately?
No.
What's your expectation for it to like be smooth? Like 2 products, 3 products down, or is it like?
Is it ever smooth?
No. Like you get me that implementation.
So next, I think it should be the next job.
And what are you gonna? What role do you have in making sure that happens? You get me as
that's
builders.
Especially when stuff goes wrong, we.
But that wasn't a wrong thing. It was something.
I'm actually thinking about the sprinkler incident, right?
Oh yeah.
So that was something that was only four of our guys were there, but we came back and we sat down as the next time we were all together as a company. It's like, let's talk about what happened, why it happened, what everyone did in that scenario, what we could have done better. We need to talk about this openly. But
do you think that's gonna sink in, or is it? Okay, I'm not taking a shot at you. I'm just saying, in my head is like, all right, next time we're at that point, I need to be there more during that moment in time. It's like the same with a rough in for electrical. I'm not going to assume that Mike or my John knows that, but I'm going to kind of buzz through there and go, hey, real quick, before you set any plugs, let's set those things this time around.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that at that moment is going to sink in more than it will.
Yeah, I don't think...
It's like yelling at a dog that we should... You know what? You should really learn to sit after it was jumping all over the countertop. 45 minutes to an hour before that, it just doesn't sink in.
I guess that you're answering your question, and my point is that I want this to be more than just one person learning from it. I want to talk about this as a group. It's not going to sink in with everyone because not everyone experienced it the same way. But if we're taking the opportunity and in conjunction doing the, hey, come, looping back around when you get to that point with the outlets, it's like I'm trying to spread this again to everyone, to the entire team, for everyone to just understand, hey, this is what went wrong and what we did, and this is how we react. This is what we can do better next time. Does everyone understand that if a sprinkler head ever goes off, this is what we would do?
I totally understand what you're saying. I'm just saying the people that didn't happen to,
right?
Do you think it's even being?
I mean, the easiest thing with the outlets is just Photoshop.
No, the problem is when they have Christmas stuff, you're like, or holiday stuff, and they're like, why can't we plug this in? You're like, oh, I can't. It's going to cost you $250 to rerun a line. It's trying to. And honestly, I think that's where the value add is when you're walking through with somebody, and they're trying to understand the house and they're trying to feel comfortable with the frame stage, and you go, hey, here's this, here's that, here's all the things that when you're living in the house they're going to feel comfortable. And that makes them think that we're already at the finished stage and not freaking out that they don't know enough about the frame stage, that they feel insecure, that they're totally overwhelmed at that point. But when you take them to a point where they're comfortable, like, hey, all right, I can picture that in my living room. That does suck. Like, I get that. You make them comfortable with these things you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Like, we want to eliminate, we had this talk the other day of central vac. We want to, like, Benny was in the house the other day and he goes, hey, how's central vac going for you? I go, I don't know. We just keep putting it in. And he's like, we sat there and go, the only place I want to use it is in the master and in the laundry. And Benny's like, he goes, and mudroom. Because that's the only place. No one's going to drag. After the trim we put in, no one's dragging a hose around off the baseboard on an outside corner. It's like a weed whacker in a lawn. It's like that fence is getting beat up. So we're like, how do we want to do it going forward as like a company? So how would you want to institute that new thing? I wouldn't say, hey, here's an email. all Central Vac is going to be in these 3 locations only, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think with mistakes, definitely addressing it as it happens. But I do think it's the type of thing where when they're at that stage, it should be brought to their attention again as well. Like, hey, listen, this happened to us once. Be careful of this. Unless if you were firsthand involved in the mistake in the first place, like, you learn that mistake once.
Yeah.
But I think if it didn't have an impact on you firsthand, it will be difficult to retain that moving forward until you're in that position and somebody's like, imagine this going wrong at this point. And I mean, I think about it with anyone who I train where I'm like, I learned not to do this, or I learned this at this point. And I try and articulate them and kind of create a shortcut for them so they don't have to learn or relearn or make that mistake themselves. But half the time, they still have to make that mistake themselves to learn it, or they still have to go through the motions themselves. And I can try and, it's like riding a bicycle. I can tell my daughters how they're going to do this and what to watch out for. But until they get those basic principles and they feel it for themselves, it's just words. They can't relate to it.
I totally agree with you. I find that some of the times, if you have the time, is almost shooting the shit and almost doing that back and forth, like one-up stories. Like, hey, last time I did this is what happened. And then John or someone or the plumber will jump in and go, you know what I saw once? Like, I remember, I'll never forget the story. It didn't happen to me. And this is actually contradicting the point of the plumbers. Like, we're doing, like, I used to put down all our own floor heat in the last company, like Sun Touch, where you staple it down, or you hand nail it down with roofers. And I always just laid it out per the directions, and I didn't think much of it because nothing ever happened. And my plumber was like, hey, so-and-so's job, he's in Wellesley, blah, blah. He did the floor heat himself, and he put it too close to the wax rings. So by the time they turned it on, it melted all the wax rings in all the toilets. And then
That's
every
crazy.
toilet leaked. And I was like, that story? Like, now that I don't do the things, I'm like, hey, where's the floor heat right now? Show it to me, lay it out. Because I'm like, I would imagine that. Imagine having to tell a client, hey, every toilet failed because I heated them up.
Yeah.
And
The good thing is now they make rubber ones.
Yeah, true.
Now, they say it on the instructions, like, don't put them underneath the toilet, but they don't tell you why.
Yep, true.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a nutty story. But there are those moments. So I think having that, like, shoot the shit moment is like, hey, this is what happened to me. Like, this is this problem. Have you ever had this? And then someone else does it. And you're like, you're all having that common talk. And then it makes you kind of have that sympathy for that person, but also go like, not forgetting that one.
Right.
So that's, I guess I do what you're saying. Just at a, like, not around I've done those around the table things. And I just felt like over the years, like at BGB, when we were director of ops, and I'd see stuff and then go, hey, let's go over on the dry eraser board. Mm-hmm. There's guys eating pizza that don't give a shit.
Yeah, but
about that.
So, and I don't think it's not one or the other. I think it's you implement all of it, because it's absolutely like when I'm on, when I walk a site, and I would expect when Mike walks a site, and Nick and Mal, everyone walks a site, they're doing just that. It's like, hey, I know that's what you're doing, but last time I did that, it's very casual. I'm not trying to remove the casualness of it. I'm trying to basically double, triple down on all of this stuff.
I guess I just don't believe in a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like
we don't have a lot of meetings.
I'd rather just I've felt over the years I've done them, and it just feel like I'd rather just do it in the field, the one-on-one. Mm-hmm. It's more, it's more representative of what's going to happen.
Yeah. And
I feel like you retain it more. It's just, good talk. Break?
No.
What's next?
No, I mean, I don't know what's next. I think it's...
Even though we do all this on the podcast, and all we do is talk about it in a round table, and then people absorb it, so maybe I'm totally wrong.
Everyone's like, yeah, now we're having meetings about all the mistakes we have, because Samana Craftsman told us to.
People are getting fired.
It's tough to have a meeting by yourself.
I know, huh?
I'm going to call a meeting.
So I'm opening a credit line.
Okay.
Are you?
Yeah.
For what?
For the business. I've been advised by my...
Better open that up before Vegas.
No. Honestly, I don't really want it.
Why?
The problem is that we're using. What do you mean it? Why? What?
Why don't you want it?
I just don't want to acquire debt. And I feel like if
It's not dead if you don't use it.
If I have it, I think we'll use it.
Oh.
Like right now, here's the reason is that right now we use all of our profit to just keep guys paid and keep them going.
Yep.
If we're waiting for a check for 2 weeks, I've got some clients that are 70 days out on some change orders. I got another client that told me the other day that we did the job, small job, whatever, not going to mention names. I've paid all my guys for it. And then he goes, yeah, you know what? I owe a ton of money to some other guys, and I paid them because they were going to sue me. So wait, give me a couple more months, and I'll be able to pay you. And I was like, awesome.
Wow.
So it's like, but that's profit that I've used to pay out that whatever the last payment for my guys was $17,000. So it's like, when am I? And then I have got clients that haven't paid some upgrades that, if you tally it out, I think my accountant told me like it's $180,000 of stuff that's accounts receivable. That's like change order stuff that's free money. That's all paid out, and it's like, so my accountant was like, you got to stop using your profit to do that because you don't ever see it. Right? You pay yourself more, blah blah. So I'm per the advisement of, my wife, the bank, accountant, and bookkeeper. That's what we're going with. And it was going to be 100, and then they said with the amount of revenue we've done, we would be comfortable giving you 150.
Yeah.
Blah blah. And it's more to everyone's paid us. I'm not saying that no one's paid us, and I should float that much money, but there's certain things. It's like, hey, I want to get that fixed. We've always said it in the past, like, oh, you want to add this? We'll get that added in, and we'll take care of it.
Well, I mean, this can go down a couple different roads, but we did the same thing, and it was, I met with my bank, and it was similar. It was like, well, what happens if there's a cash flow issue, or what happens if someone's behind on a payment? And there's definitely been situations like that. We've had clients, we've had one client, knock on wood, that wasn't going to pay us, and it's but that I never want to I never want to say, hey, I can't pay my sub because my client didn't pay me.
Pay when paid.
Right. There's a very big part of me that does everything to avoid that.
Yeah.
And
a lot of guys bust their ass to make magic happen for us.
Right, and then
they shouldn't have to wait.
Right, and it's not their job to get the client to pay you. It's their job. They've done their job. They deserve to be paid. And that's exactly why we did. We got a credit line. Same thing.
And how much of that? So I've had this talk, not with you, but with like my architect, and said, hey, blah blah, and and I've known lots of companies that have had them, and how much of that do you use?
There's been times where we've maxed it out and then we pay it back.
Yeah. No, just because I know like there's certain times where my clients...
I forget how much it is now, but I know in the beginning it was like $50,000.
Doesn't even know.
No,
how much he has.
It's not. Okay. It's less than yours,
Did you
John.
see that?
No, but I don't... I feel like I come off on this podcast sometimes as like a snotty asshole. Like my $5 coffees.
Must be nice.
Yeah, must be nice. Yeah. Anyway.
I don't even know how much money I have.
No, but I think it's like 75 or 100,000. But I remember in the beginning it was 50, and I remember there being a time where I was like, all right.
How early did you get that?
Not that early.
Okay. No, I just didn't know what was...
Within the last 2 years.
Because honestly, I never would have thought of it until my accountant told me.
Neither did I.
At our meeting the beginning of this year, he was like, hey, guys, I want it. And I was like, I remember Ben and I walked out of there going, should we? Like, what's the... Yeah. And it would, because there's certain points. I find that, like, I got clients that will wire me money, which is great. And then there's a client that will, hey, can I see a different breakdown of those numbers for this? Mm-hmm. I got one right now that's been waiting for 2 weeks to get that breakdown. And I'm like, all right, all those guys are paid.
What? All right, so... What breakdown?
So
your cost plus.
So different things. We're still doing some specs.
Oh, okay.
So some specs are just spreadsheet, but then we have other spec investors that want to see, hey, each invoice, where do those numbers fall in the spreadsheet, plus or minus? Basically, give me the cliff notes. I don't want to look at the spreadsheet of where everything's falling.
I got you. Yeah.
Give me the breakdown so I literally go line item by line item, showing what was estimated and what was done, and then instead of the huge spreadsheet, give him that invoice broken out, and that's what he wants. So like, but more importantly, like they'll pay the wire, but if that takes 2 weeks to happen, those guys, I'm not making those guys wait 2 weeks.
Right.
You know, it sucks. I mean, I've been on that end of it where you're waiting like, hey, I know I get this job done. I'll get paid. I want to be that guy because then they'll come to me first.
Yeah.
And it's how do you do that where you're not getting leveraged like crazy? Like there's certain points in time where we're waiting for like $500,000 in receivables.
Right.
And you're like, and then the accountant, like after you get 200, like she's like, the rest of that's paid off. And I'm like, because it's gone the next week.
Right.
I've just burned it on somebody else.
Right.
I cut a check to our HVAC guy for his 2/3 for a house, and we haven't gotten paid for the first third. It's all pending, and it's like.
Do you cost track per job?
Yes.
Is it so? Are you separating money?
At the account?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We track it all, and it's. I mean.
So you can look at a job and say, "Oh, we've received 500, but we've spent 600 on this job."
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think it's. And I'm speaking totally out of line here. I think it's required in some states that money is separated. And there's
well, Matt Reisinger said that he used to do different bank accounts for people.
They still do.
And I talked to somebody else that used to do that, and it was bonkers.
Yeah.
Because it was actually, I think I talked to JJ, the kid in California. Him and I on the phone the other day, and he was saying, but if someone accidentally uses the wrong card for a different job, it gets super messy.
Yeah.
Well, so there's a way to do it where you're basically separating all these bank accounts. Each job has a bank account. The money goes into that, and then your payables.
Do you just like to make things complicated?
No, I don't do this.
The biggest mistake I make is putting my groceries on my company card. It's like, I'm like, whoops, I'm going to have to explain to my accountant what I bought at the grocery store. I'll just tell her I need like snacks refilled for my truck. This is what goes through my head.
Yeah.
So I still get the write-off for it, you know?
Oh, I tried this the other day. She was like, they were like, "Hey, what's this charge?" I'm like, "Shirts," and they were new flannels. And she was like, "Are they branded?" I'm like, "No." She goes, "You can't write that off." I'm like, "It's part of my image."
Yeah.
She's like,
that's
no.
work clothes.
That's like when I go to homies and I grab something and I sneak in some peanut M&Ms because they're not on my card.
Yeah.
Because my wife will catch it, and my bookkeeper's like, "Hey, should I expense the M&Ms to the job, or like are they necessary for the job?" I've had that call.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, no, that's me. That's all me.
No, it's the I forget where we were going with this, but
Credit line.
Oh, the credit line. But it's I didn't consider the spec thing because like you're primarily cost plus, and a lot of times clients are away. Right.
And that you don't. There's something that was taught years ago when I interviewed with F.H. Perry, and I remember I was in, I forget, Four Seasons Hotel, and they said, I was like, because I was always about like being on like $15 change order, boom, sending that email, whatever it was, writing it up, like, and because you don't want to lose anything. That's how we were taught.
Yeah.
And I remember walking through with Rusty's, walking me through this job, and my mind was blown on how do you get sheetrock upstairs when it's like the 17th floor of the building. I was like, as a GC, always on the ground. And then he was like, I go, so what's the deal with the numbers? How do you make everything work? And he goes, well, we don't charge this guy small change orders. We wait till they build up to like $150K. And I literally stopped walking at that point. I was like, explain yourself. Like, you're now at risk for $150K. He's like, yeah, but they don't want to be bothered for anything under $100K. Like, they'll just pay it when it adds up. And I just never got that. And now my that's been like 15 years. And I'm like,
do you think that you should write more change orders? Or
no. Like, I find that we invoice every 2 weeks and nothing sooner. Because a lot of clients don't want to be bothered with it. Like, we have a couple builds coming up where it's like, I will probably wait till it gets to $120K and I'll invoice for that. Like, we have a cushion already of our, deposit. So that covers us. I think we took a $50,000 deposit. So we'll continue to invoice on that. But the $50K is our cushion as we go throughout the whole thing. So it's not like I need every buck, every invoice.
All right. Here's one that we go back and forth with a lot is deposits. Mm-hmm. So you're taking that $50,000 deposit, it's your cushion. When do you give it back to the job?
We return it at the end. That's where we're at right now.
So your final payment
it's a big project. So yeah, it would be in part of that. I think it's actually 25 is what I took.
So your final payment's probably more than the 25.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Well, honestly, we'll probably give a portion of it back. Like that's what we've done. Like even on the small ones where it's like $5,000, we'll probably give $2,000 back in the second to last invoice, 25, whatever it is left over, $3,000 at the end.
Yeah.
Just because it's.
Do you hold retainage?
It's almost like no. Yeah, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Just because then once that person's paid off 100%, you don't have 5% retainage on like foundation guys when you're in sheetrock stage.
Right.
And it's just a ton of paperwork. But no, I think the hardest part. I think I look at it is like first month's and last month's rent. Mm-hmm. You don't get that till you're out, because otherwise it makes it harder for me to. We told clients that we can't fund your project.
Right. The problem is, or that we've dealt with, is towards the end, they get to a point where the job
it's a leverage game.
Well, it's sometimes like we've been in positions where the job's 100% paid because the deposit.
Well, most people, there's a point where they want to understand that they have leverage on you.
Right.
So that they'll hold a payment off.
But why does a client get to have the leverage and not us?
Just because they feel like they need it.
Right.
So it's how we have to position ourselves in the project, where it's like, hey, like a lot of people have holdbacks if we turn a house over. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, it's 11. The goal, everyone says, is zero punch. I think the only person going to do that is Tyler. Mm-hmm. Like just the amount of scale and walls that we touch, not excuses, but it's hard to do it.
So I always use this example. It's all right. Pretend you have a $100,000 job. It's 10 months long. Mm-hmm. So you want to take maybe a $10,000 deposit. So $10,000 deposit. You bill every month. You do about $10,000 every month. On month 9 out of 10, you're billing that next $10,000. Now they're 100% paid a month early.
But you wouldn't be able to bill for that. You'd have to then use your.
You would use that deposit and then bill for the next 10. Yeah,
exactly. When you're done. So there's that point where you have to have that fluff.
Yeah.
You floated it.
So I was talking to Nick about this, and we had a job that we had a pretty significant deposit that it kind of screwed things up towards the end. Mm-hmm. We made it work, but it was just from a cash flow standpoint, it throws everything off.
And we talked about this before. Like if it's a $2 million build, I'll take $25,000.
Right.
I just don't need it in my system.
Right.
I've had this talk with a bunch of guys. They're like, take $100,000. Why? So I can brag about taking a huge deposit? Right. I don't need $100,000 in my system.
The point of not funding the job is very real.
It is very real, yes.
And it's that was something that when I was smaller with less guys, I would always fund. And it was just like, all right, replenish.
But I think $25,000 is a good number. Like as a deposit, like that's...
Yeah, but a $2 million job that's a year long, I mean, you're going to exhaust a huge portion of it.
But I'm not going to... It's like $150,000 a month.
Yeah.
So it's like every 2 weeks it's $50,000 or $75,000. Like $25,000, I'm not banking on that money to carry me.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, billing every 2 weeks is fast. So.
Well, it's just honestly, it's not like it's okay. What we've learned is we used to try and do it. Every invoice gets out at the same Friday every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. No. So this invoice is going out every week.
Yeah.
It's just rotating all of them.
Yeah.
And that's what's worked best.
Because we're monthly right now, and that's but it's. I'd love to be faster, but it's just that's what's been working for us.
Yeah, dude, you got to do what you work with.
Right.
Works.
I mean, we're doing. Our budget is updated every single week, so we know exactly where our costs are. So at the end of the month, it's become super easy. It's been painful to get to this process, but now it's just we go in. It's like, what did we spend this month? All right, bill that plus our fee.
I just feel like a month is for me too long to remember it. Like I keep a running tally in my head of everything. So like 2 weeks is perfect where I haven't gone like, hey, did we invoice? Like when I see them, Emily will send. So everything goes to accounting. If it doesn't go to accounting, it doesn't get invoiced. You don't get paid. There's the only rule I have. You don't count on it going to me and then me forwarding it. I did that for a year. And that was like, what?
Yeah.
What am I doing? And it was just to be comfortable with Emily and everything. So now it all goes there. And then she sends me every Thursday or whatever, hey, here's an invoice. Run through it all. Any issues you need me to do, anything you want me to pull, blah, blah, pull it, and then I'll send it. And it's just like, but that's everything that she's been sent, which is great. I couldn't do 2 weeks without her.
Yeah.
And same with Ben. It just makes life so much easier because everything goes to her. It has to have the job name on it. It has to have certain things, and then boom. But Benny had his builder trend.
I heard.
Demo yesterday.
I talked to him.
And dude, they're like a goddamn wet blanket. She called me an hour after he had the demo and goes, "Hey, Benny loved it. What do you think?" I go, "Haven't talked to him yet. You need to calm down. You need to give me a couple days.
Well,
I'll see him in Vegas.
So
we'll talk."
I told because I talked to Benny about it because he asked me my opinion, and obviously he talked to Mike. But I was like, I bet the sales side is so strong. He's like, dude, they're insane.
It's ridiculous.
But one thing, and it drove me nuts because we had the program and they would call me and be like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this program called Build." I'm like, guys, get me off your list.
Yeah.
I have it. And when I went out to the Build the Trend University, I think I've made this reference before, is that if you've seen Wolf of Wall Street, like everyone on the phone making calls, sales calls, selling, that's what their sales floor looks like.
Doing blow.
No, not blow. But it's just like
24/7.
But it's insane. It's like they're all super young. They're like they're all standing up. They're walking around, throwing like a baseball, like whatever, and they're selling. But then you go to the other side.
ABC, always be closed.
But then you go to the other side of the building. And this is like a total plug for them at this point. But you go to the other side of the building, and it's the customer relationship division where like they're taking feedback or walking clients through, and that's where that's what solidified it for me when I started working with them. Is that they're aggressive with sales, but they're equally aggressive as in developing.
I just wish the hook wasn't so strong. Like, I'm going to Vegas, and one of the things that Benny and I are doing is just looking at, there's a lot of different systems out there right now. Mm-hmm. And again, I know I'm coming back from where I've been on a program. It's just the fact that I have to step away from running these projects at some point, mm-hmm. where I can just sell them, and then just kind of go in and out where I don't need to be accountable for everything.
Yep.
Like right now, my guys don't touch the numbers. I mean, John gets me quotes, sends them to me, I approve them. But still, there's no approval process for them.
Yep.
So I know that it may not be for me, but if this system's going to work for everybody,
right,
and I can't have full control, then a system does have to be implemented beyond my accountant, my bookkeeper, and me. So So Ben and I, we talked today, is that the goal when we go out to Vegas, along with seeing everybody and having a good time, is to really dive into some of these other programs that are out there to see what's going to be a right fit. There's some new ones out there, so that's my goal while we're out there, is just kind of pop in and out, see what it is. Because I know Ben and I both want the program for exactly the same reason. It's not to schedule people. It's none of that stuff. It's really just to track cost.
Yeah.
It makes it simple for us.
Right.
Where it's like, hey, how much have we paid so-and-so, the HVAC guy? Instead of having to ping Emily, I can hit a button.
Right.
That's really 100% the only benefit that we see out of using it. Honestly, we're probably not going to use it with most of our clients. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's going to be just
internal. And you don't have to.
Yeah, and our goal is to do it internally.
The biggest issue is the learning curve, and that's why.
I mean, I've used it. I'm with you.
Yeah, it was
I know it was like a decade ago.
Right.
But there's a bunch out there.
Yeah.
100. This is what everyone wanted, was just
us
talking.
I got some specific questions. One I remember off the top of my head. They wanted to know how old we were.
How dare you? Isn't that racism?
Too old.
Discrimination?
Too old. I just turned 34 beginning of this month.
I can't give you my age because I won't be allowed into the IBS young party, whatever it is. They literally wouldn't allow me to register for that party because of my age. I had to change it.
That's amazing. I always forget. I'll be 32 next month.
I'm 40.
I thought you were 39.
I am on that spreadsheet.
No, I feel like you're only going to be 32. I thought you were going to be 33.
No, 88. Yeah.
I should have hung on at 39 for a couple of years.
I'm going to see if I have any other questions. Well,
How tall are you?
Me?
I just hit 6 foot.
You just hit 6 foot?
I've been 5'11" my whole life. I went to the doctor and she goes,
"Would you get new shoes?"
She was like, "You're 6 foot." I'm like, "Hell, I'm getting a new license."
She's doing that to everyone that day.
Yeah.
She's like, you know what?
Everyone gets an inch. He had his hair gelled straight up.
That was one of the questions: how long it takes me to do my hair. I want better questions than this. These are very specific questions. Oh, you were gonna pull up a review, right?
I was.
On
you know what I
Spotify?
got? So I'm doing the interview with Tom Silver at IBS,
That's sick.
and I put a questionnaire out. I got nothing but like spam.
What?
Yeah, I got like nothing but spam questions out of that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was really disappointed.
Oh yeah, here. Yeah. All right, let's wrap up with this question. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Assuming that you're alive.
Assuming that you're alive in this industry.
Wow, dead air.
Oh.
That's good stuff.
This is from Joe Kelly of Mass Construction Podcast. I know Joe will be listening.
All right, Joe. I would like to say I'd like to be building probably 3 to 4 houses a year. That's it. Probably $2 million plus construction costs for each one of those. I'd have my own design center, kick-ass space, little WeWork stations, a little Etsy area for people to sell stuff that I think is cool. But literally everything that we pour into our houses would be able to be found in that space, and it'd be used for anyone in the construction field and designers. Maybe TV. I don't know. And honestly, probably have my son at that point. Yeah, he'll be 18. I would hope that maybe he'd be involved more.
All right.
Probably a couple of retirement properties. That's exactly what they are. Rental.
What about you, Tyler?
It's tough to say. I would say I'll probably still have a hand in doing a fair amount of work if I could expand a little bit, possibly. I think that I'm always going to want to have a lot of control over my business and over what I'm doing, but I don't want to necessarily be doing the daily grind. So maybe if I were able to build somewhat of a team and I were managing a little bit more, still doing certain aspects of the job that I wanted to, but I also think probably owning some rental properties as well, maybe looking to make some money in real estate. I think I would like to take some of the heat off of the remodeling portion being my main source of income. Because I think a lot of stressors in my life, obviously, are financial implications of running a business create a lot of stress. But if I had something in my life where a job didn't go right or schedule were dragged out, it wouldn't be the end of the world, and the financial implications of that wouldn't seem so heavy and so daunting. Having something else in my life to offset the cost of my life in general, which I think would be possibly, something with real estate, something with rental properties, more so than just the construction aspect of it.
How many tattoos?
By then, I don't know how many, but I won't really have much more space left. Maybe I'll always have a little bit of space, but I don't have that much space left now. So in 10 years, I most certainly won't. Hands and neck probably won't be done in 10 years, though. So I'll have that going for me.
I think for us, or even just myself, I would want to be focused on strictly whole home remodel or whole home construction with a heavy focus on contemporary and modern architecture, and concentrating on building the very specific style of home that I enjoy, and be heavily involved in the design side of it, but have my business at a point where the systems and kind of the back of house stuff that I'm so focused on now has been delegated to others, so I can be on site and be involved with the process to see these projects all the way through. I think similar to John, I'd like to do a handful of a handful of those homes a year, not have as many projects going on at the same time. But also from the personal side of things, I think in 10 years, I want to be consulting more, working with this industry. Obviously, I would love to see this podcast still be going, and us having made a big impact to what this industry is shaping up to be. And I don't know, I just be really involved with how things will change and how we progress as craftsmen and builders and tradespeople, and just, I don't know, do as much as I can to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And more panelized
Yeah, it's
systems.
tough to say. I feel like I'll probably be in the same exact. I feel like I'll probably be in the same exact position in 10 years.
Dude, I said this to one of my guys today. Not my guys. One of my subs that I talk to a lot. Actually mentored me into where we're at now. And I was like, hey, my goal in the next 12 months is to really finally design the renovation of my house and renovate my house to where I'm happy with it as a builder. And he's like, yeah, man, you need to get that done. I'm like, it's been a 7-year plan. I left my 2 companies ago for the money to be able to, the enticement of being able to do that. And now my oldest is going to go on to high school next year. And I'm like having that, when we talk about the projects, is you start scheduling from the beginning of the project and you start going. And then at a certain point, you start going from the completion date back to where you're at. Mm-hmm. I'm there. My kid's going to high school. I'm like, I got 4 years left where he's with us. I need to bang that out. So yeah. So my point to that was, it's taken me 7 years. I've had the same goal. Just finish my house.
Yeah. I don't think any of us are going to be in the same position in 10 years. Not with what we're doing today.
I hope not.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. But before we do, shout out to our boy Dylan and the team over at Upstate Merch. They have been a huge supporter of us, Modern Craftsmen, and us individually for our companies. And I know a ton of you guys work with them at Upstate Merch on Instagram. They're running a deal right now, right?
Correct.
I mean, you're wearing one of their shirts.
You
right
are,
now.
baby.
I am. I mean, they've been awesome too. Well, I think John, you really brought them into the construction industry. They were printing band T-shirts, and now every time I watch his story, he's buying more equipment to print contractors.
He's printing some of the best comedians' shirts.
That's amazing.
Brendan Schwab, he's doing his shirts. He's doing all those guys.
Well, he's got a contractor special going on, front and back T-shirt printing special. 100 T-shirts for $485, 50 for $290. I don't know. I mean, that's a killer deal.
It's to spread your brand, to make everyone look professional.
Yeah.
We give them to, we've not been giving them out to people on IG, but more so giving them to families that we work for.
Yeah. We just gave 2 to the 2 kids over in Newton. Yeah. They wanted T-shirts.
Yeah.
I was like, Molly, we got a small and a medium.
Yeah. Kids, but more I do it for the clients. They're kids.
Yeah.
That's the branding we want. That when people wear it, they know that they're immediately part of the team and the family we
Nick,
create.
do you have a T-shirt launcher yet?
No, but we could get one. We should bring one to the Builders of Instagram meetup. But they also do a really good job, because I remember that one of the first set of T-shirts I ever ordered was from someone else, and while they looked good, they didn't last, and they didn't. Yeah. They were crap. So
if you don't have a good logo, those guys will help.
Yeah, they do a lot of design in house too. The thing I like with dealing with Dylan is I feel like he's concerned with quality.
Absolutely.
Which is nice. Like, so many people that I dealt with before were just pumping out shirts. I had a company that I'm still burning through work shirts because they printed them wrong twice. And the first time they printed them wrong, I was like, listen, it's not a big deal. I'll still use them. They're work shirts. But for the next round, can you just make sure it's like this? And the guy's like, no, my mess up. I'll reprint them for free. And I was like, no, I don't want you to. I don't need them, just for the next time. And he reprinted them again for free, wrong. So I was like, all right, I can't tell him anymore. And I still have those shirts, but they're crappy T-shirts for work. But then that's when Dylan in Upstate came around. I wanted some nicer t-shirts for work and for customers and friends and stuff like that. So I've been getting them printed from him ever since. And he worked through like all the design issues and then recommended certain t-shirt brands, what printed well, like changed things on my design to make them print better, different like color schemes that worked well with the gray. He's always been super helpful.
And not just t-shirts. He'll do embroidery.
He did hats.
Yeah, like I send him my Carhartt stuff. We send him a box of Carhartt. He can also order Carhartt stuff for you, either the embroidering or screen print on them. I think it's a slam dunk.
Did he make us hats for this year at IBS?
He did. We have 100.
100.
100
for
100
episodes.
Yeah, baby.
All right, so we'll give out 100 hats. We'll probably bring them. I don't even know where we'll bring them. Just look if we'll have a box. Please take them.
No, we're gonna throw them at everybody. People got to catch them.
So we need a hat launcher. Yes. All right, we got 2 reviews this week. Refreshingly real.
You got 5s? What do we got?
5-star. Figured I'd give it 100 episodes before weighing. You haven't even listened to the 100th episode, but fair enough. Figured I'd give it 100 episodes before weighing in with
shouldn't criticize our reviewers.
I'm sorry. You can't rush these things, but seriously, that 100 episode mark is important for the show because the 3 of you have stuck to your mission from episode 1 and never deviated. No big sellouts, no drifting off schedule, and leaving big gaps between episodes. No egos. I kind of have an ego. Why am I all over this guy? Just honest conversation with interesting people, finding out what makes different craftsmen or craftspeople tick and how they have been able to make a living following their dreams. The show works because it's so obvious from the heart, and that's why it can't be reproduced. Equal parts inspiration, encouragement, cautionary tale, and entertainment. Keep up the excellent work, guys. Thank you so much. And then we got Dane Sanderson. Our boy. What is he? Green Logic Builders or something? I'm totally messing that up. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of his company. I feel bad. He actually worked for us for a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. Either way, Dana. Sorry.
Is that the kid that's over near
Framingham?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Dana.
Green.
Yeah.
What is it? Green something.
Don't know. Good guy though.
Yes. All right. Glad we cleared that up. Dana's like, guys, come on. Amazing podcast with true business owners and a great variety of guests. Each episode contains valuable insights into struggles and successes of the building industry, small business owners. Rare breed of guys who devote their time to advance the industry as a whole. This past episode sets their character in stone and shows their passion hasn't changed. They have the right intentions and continue to educate the next generation, clients, and tradesmen. And because I messed it up, I'm going to look up his handle real quick. Bear with me. I want to give him a shout out because I'm stuck on Joe Rogan's page.
That's it.
Jeez. Green Logic Builders.
You nailed it. You didn't screw it up.
Dana, thanks so much, man. We, of course, appreciate your support.
Just delete that entire thing about you forgetting it.
Nah, let it be real. No, but seriously, guys, 100 episodes is a huge milestone for us. There was definitely
it's a lot of work.
It is.
It is.
And I think there was a lot of times where we didn't think we'd make it to 50.
I always had faith.
I feel like I see people's podcast and
we had all question
it. That's you don't realize how much work, like to think from when this started that it's been 100 nights, like as my wife's texting me, are you stopping soon? But like I've probably taken 5 nights aside and spent them with my wife, let alone like 100 times that we've gotten together to record a podcast. It's crazy.
But it's driven by you guys and the support and the feedback, the good and the bad.
Yeah. It's all appreciated, and with love it grows. So keep sharing it, and we're going to keep hammering away at it for another 100.
Yeah. So if you guys like or find value in what we're doing, make sure you share the podcast with a friend. Drop us a comment, a review. We'll dig into
and a repost.
And we're always loving the Instagram stories.
We got a ton this week.
Yeah, we did. You guys are much better at reposting them than I.
I just try and sit every night to do all of them for the Money Craftsman.
And it looks like there's might be a demand for Tula Hawk getting back on here.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So I might have to catch up with Kiefer in Vegas if he's there. If not, maybe we'll have him on in the future.
Yeah, I think we got a couple podcasts when we're in Vegas.
We do. But again, or next week, or this week when you guys are listening to it, International Builder Show, January 21st through the 23rd. We're going to be all over the place. So stay tuned to our stories. We'll be posting our schedules at where I know we're all doing a couple different talks, panel discussions, meetups.
The two big meetups are definitely Builders of Insta, Tuesday 3 p.m. And then the other big one is what?
Hubert Alive.
Yep. Hubert is Wednesday. Actually, is that
Hubert.
Tuesday? I did it again. And then
we're gonna put that in my count. I don't have the best of social.
3:30 for social awards.
And then Keepcraft Alive is one of the nights.
Yeah, I thought I put that in here.
Well, either way, we'll post it on our stories.
Yeah. I should get it in my note. I get it in my calendar.
Do you?
Yeah, I put everyone's schedule in my calendar, so I was on point for next week.
I got it.
I don't even know if I have
Keepcraft Alive event,
calendar.
5:30 to 8:30, Hard Rock Hotel.
On Wednesday. After the Hubert Awards.
And Hubert is 3:30.
3:30 at their booth.
Got it.
Yeah, Wednesday, 8 p.m. I did have it in my notebook.
Cool. Jeez. All right, guys. As always, appreciate it. We'll see you guys in Vegas, and we will talk to you soon.
See you guys.